Hi everybody, I'm Leah of seejanedrill. Now, what's the difference between carpentry and woodworking? No, it's not a joke, okay? It's a real question. And the difference is huge, believe it or not, but it's measured in a very, very small way. The difference between carpentry and woodworking is an eighth of an inch. I'm going to tell you what that means coming up next. So before I get started, let me share a story with you, and it has to do with the man that taught me more than anyone else. Ted was a great carpenter. He was a journeyman, but here's the thing. Whenever I was on the job site and Ted was around, I always wanted to work near Ted because Ted was also a furniture maker, and that's how he got his start. His dad had a furniture making business, and that's how Ted got started in the trade. And he was able to show me things and teach me things that I just couldn't learn from anyone else because he was unique in terms of being a master carpenter, a journeyman carpenter, and also being a furniture maker. And so that leads us right back to today's video. Is there a difference between carpentry and woodworking? And yes, it's an eighth of an inch. So when you're a woodworker, you have to make very precise joints because you're building things. But when you're a carpenter, you're building structures, and joints matter, but they don't really matter. And an example of that is a few videos ago, I did what was called a half lap joint, and I did it with two 2x4s. So if I'm working outside and I'm building a deck, or I'm building a kid's jungle gym, I could do a lap joint out of two 2x4s, and I could make those cuts with a circular saw, okay? But you know what? As a woodworker, you would never make a half lap joint with a circular saw. You just wouldn't. And it gets back to that eighth of an inch. I can get away with it there, but you can't get away with it when you're building a thing out of wood, like a piece of furniture. So if you come in close, I'm going to show you a couple things. Okay, so remember a few weeks ago, I did this lap joint with these two pieces of 2x4. Now I want you to look over here on the side. This is kind of tight, but you come over here on this side and you have a little bit of a gap. Now as a carpenter, that's acceptable. Carpenters have an eighth of an inch tolerance. On an outside structure, this is great. But you never could get away with a joint like that in woodworking, okay? Now I'm going to take this out of the way. Now, I've brought something else into the camera's view. This is just a wood box, but you see this joint on the side? That's called a finger joint. And I want you to notice how tight the joints are. Now this is a line here because it's a case that, it's a box that opens. So I want you to know that that's not a bad cut. But I want you to look down here, and I want you to notice how tight everything is. And that's what I meant by you could never get away with an eighth of an inch. So let's talk about marking our wood. Now, as a carpenter, I'm going to take a pencil, I'm going to take a square here, and I'm going to strike my line. There we go. Because I need to see that line when I take my saw and make the cut. And you know what? That's a key difference. I need to see the line to make the cut. Okay, now for woodworking, you use a tool like this. This is called a marking knife. And if you notice, there's a beveled edge here on this side, but I'm going to flip it over, and you'll notice that it's flat. It's flat so that it rides against your square. Now, a marking knife, it makes a very thin line, and that's what you need for woodworking because it's all about a precision joint, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my marking knife here. If you notice, like I said, bevel, flat side. I'm going to place the flat side up against the edge of my square, and I'm going to use the edge of my square to ride my knife against. Just like that. And that gives me my line here. Can you see it? If you can't see it, it doesn't matter because a woodworker needs to feel the line. You need to feel the line, and I can feel that line. Okay, so I ran 2 lines. I have the line that you saw me do on camera, but I also made another line here because this is going to represent a dado. And let's say I needed to cut out a dado and I was going to use a chisel to do it. Well, the one thing that I will say is having a line here that I can feel with my hand, well, guess what? My chisel can feel that as well. It can seek out that line, okay, and give me a great starting point. Now, if I was on a pencil line, that pencil line, look, is very thick. And really, I could scoot all over the place. But having a line that's cut in the wood allows my tool to start precisely where it needs to start. And I'm going to just give it a light rap, okay? So I'm starting my chisel line exactly where I need to start it. Now, to illustrate a point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this line in half lengthwise with this marking knife. So I'm going to find where I want to start, okay? I'm going to slide my square up to it, all right? And now I'm going to just go ahead and make that mark. So I brought the camera in really close so that you can see where I've cut the line in half. And that's why this is a precision tool that allows you to cut or mark joints for real tight fits, like that finger joint I showed you. So I just want to show you a few other woodworking tools. Now remember, this is the marking knife, but right next to it, this is a marking gauge as well, all right? Now I'm going to slide this over, and I'm going to introduce you to these 2 tools. This is a dovetail saw, and this is a dovetail marker. Now right next to that, this is a divider, and you use dividers to help, or at least I do, okay? I use my dividers for dovetail layout. But this tool is also a carpenter's tool because you can use it for scribing. Now we're going to move on to the chisels here. I'm going to pull a chisel out here. And these are my better chisels, and I use these chisels for woodworking. And I only use them for woodworking, but what I will tell you is a chisel is also a carpenter's tool. So those are a few woodworking tools. I hope you didn't think that was all of them because there's a lot more, okay? But I'm just trying to keep things real basic today in explaining the differences between carpentry and woodworking. Now, what I'll do is I'll place a link in the description below the video to some of the tools you've seen in this video so you can check it out for yourself. Now, beyond that, I want to encourage you to comment below if you got a different take on carpenters versus woodworkers, or if you want to add something to the discussion, comment in the comments below. Let me know what you're thinking. This is Leah saying you can do this. See you next time.